Analog is a new digital. Have you ever heard of that statement? It refers to the new hype in the world of photography. Analog is cool. For my 16th birthday, I asked an analog fisheye and not a digital camera. Why? My film only allows 36 photos. So I have to think about what I'm going to photograph. And I like that. I like the feeling that I don't know what's on my picture. And I love the tension I feel when my photos are developed. Apparently, I'm not the only one. I think analog is that popular because it gives people the opportunity to go back to the initial goal of a picture, capturing a moment and afterwards giving back the feeling or emotion that belonged to that moment. The problem nowadays is that digital cameras steer us more and more away from that initial goal. And that's because they give people the opportunity to take pictures mindlessly. There has been done quite some research to find out what impact taking photos exactly has on the way we experience life. There is an experiment from a doctor from the Fairfield University of Connecticut. Students had to visit a museum, and there were 15 objects they had to look at, and 15 objects they had to photograph. Afterwards, the students had to answer some questions about those objects. And the result? The students knew a lot less about the objects they photographed than the objects they observed with their own eyes. This phenomenon has a name: the photo-taking impairment effect. If we focus too much on taking the picture, and then it doesn't matter whether it's digital, whether it's analog. If we focus too much on the technological experience, we will miss what's happening in front of us. We will miss the live experience. And my dear audience, that is a pity. Because you won't remember moments anymore, but pictures. That was the case for some friends of my godmother. Those friends went on holiday and, as it behooves a good tourist, they photographed their whole trip. After the pictures had been developed, they saw an image of their diving trip, and beside the man, there was a big black stain. In all their excitement of diving and taking pictures, they hadn't noticed the huge sea turtle that was swimming just a meter from that man. Funny, I thought in first place. Pathetic, I thought in second place. Because that story made me realize how busy we actually are with the technological side of the experience instead of with the experience itself. Unfortunately, this doesn't only happen in the world of photography. We miss that bigger picture in all types of technology. For example, teachers, and there are plenty of them here today, but teachers who are so focused on using a computer in the classroom miss the real personal teaching. Or kids playing on their iPad while dining with their parents. Those kids miss the social contact. To me, that kind of situations aren't surprising anymore. I am more or less used to it. Because just as photography, technology is everywhere. It has become ubiquitous in our lives. And the more we drown in it, the more we lose the added value of it. The challenge is to use the technology efficiently, on one hand, and try not to miss out on the real experience, on the other hand. And that's what we're doing here, today, right now. I am speaking to you, with you listening, and you asking some really critical questions, but all with our cell phones switched off, and my headset switched on. And isn't this what it's all about? This moment? Because what happens if you don't live it? Well, you miss the sea turtle. There was more in that picture than a man, and I do believe that there's more life than a picture. Thank you.
Here goes. If it's all about the experience, why do we need photography at all?
To relive the experience later, I think, because if we take a picture of something, then we will realize how beautiful that moment was. So then we can relive that moment. So I think that taking pictures has an advantage to relive a real experience.
Would it then be a more ideal idea to take a picture after the experience?
I think that's a really great idea. To live a moment, I think it's better than to really live it and then afterwards take a picture of it so that you really have lived that experience and that you own that memory and that not your camera owns that memory. So I think that's really a great idea.
What is the difference between capturing it with an analog camera or a digital one?
Well, actually, there isn't much difference. But the fact is, I prefer analog above digital because digital cameras give us the opportunity to take lots and lots and lots of pictures. And then the more pictures we take, the more they lose their power. But in fact, there isn't really much difference between analog or digital to capture a moment.
There are those certain legendary pictures, photographs that we see coming back. Can a photograph really fully grasp the intensity of a moment?
It's true that there are some really strong pictures, but I don't think that a picture can really have all the intensity of the moment itself. For example, a few weeks ago, I went to the concert of Rudimental, and while my friend was filming, I was just dancing and doing crazy, and she has me standing on her film, really doing stupid stuff. But I really lived that moment, and I don't think that for her, that film really has everything of that moment in its in that movie. So I really think that the real life experience is better than the digital one, if that answers your question.
What would then be more interesting, to have your life photographed or to have it videotaped?
That's a difficult question. I think I would prefer to have it photographed because filming still takes much more time than having it photographed. So if I take a picture of a moment, then I live more of the moment because taking one picture takes less time than taking a whole movie. So I think that taking photos is better than filming it.
You were talking about the concert and the taping. Should it be banned at certain events?
Well, I think the Sportpaleis is thinking about abandoning it. And I think that's a really good idea because people will live their concert, they will live their moments much better. And maybe people will be angry like, oh, I can't take a picture and I'm not allowed to film. But I think that's a really good idea because afterwards they really have lived that moment and then they own that memory. So I think it's a good idea to abandon it in some places, some events.
At certain events, like here, there is professional footage. But why do people still feel the need to take their own pictures, their own footage of events?
I think that's because they're proud of it. If you manage to do something yourself, I think you're always more proud of it than if you just have a picture by a professional photographer. So I think that's why people always prefer their own picture instead of a picture of you, for example.
Thank you, Ms. Victor.
Thank you very much.